All right, sorry, you guys. Want to make sure that a lot of the folks are able to come on before we start tonight. But I just want to say good evening and thank you for joining us. We are here tonight as Freedom Inc. Southeast Asian leaders to speak about anti-Asian crimes and to address the violent crime on Asians and Asian communities, particularly the murder of 8 Asian folks, of which 6 are women, last night in Atlanta, Georgia. And in times like these, it is important to follow the leadership of Asian women, which I have the leaders that we have on here today. So I would like to introduce Zhong, who is our Youth Justice Director, Pashua, who is our Hmong Gender Justice Advocate, Nancy is our Director of Grants and Development, and Hope, who is our Administrative Assistant and Program Coordinator. So with that, I will go ahead and turn it over to Hope.
Hi everyone, so tonight I'm going to read our statement, Condemning Anti-Asian Hate, Gender-Based Violence, and White Supremacy. Yesterday, Tuesday, March 16th, 6 Asian women were killed when Robert Aaron Long took the lives of 8 people in Atlanta, Georgia. Our hearts and condolences go out to the families and friends of these women and the whole Asian community, the Asian LGBTQIA+ people. They are our sisters, mothers, families, friends, and we at Freedom Inc. condemn the anti-Asian hate, gender-based violence, and white supremacy that led to this violent loss of life. Murderer Aaron Long, intentionally planned and targeted these locations because he wanted to inflict specific harm against Asian women. We know from working with the Asian community for over 20 years that this kind of targeted violence is fueled by the racialized sexualization of Asian people. Stereotypes of Asian women as disposable have allowed white men to exploit, traffic, rape, and murder us without accountability in both domestic and foreign spaces. Racism, misogyny, and anti-immigration policies uphold this inequality. We know that violent white capitalism does not respect our lives or our bodies, and we condemn anyone that refuses to acknowledge the racist and misogynistic motivations behind these murders. All Asian women workers deserve dignity and protection, regardless of their occupation. All Asian women deserve kindness and inclusion, regardless of how we are essentialized by the media. We refuse to let this man's voice reduce the brilliance of our lives. Our legacy is rich, multi-layered, and worth protecting. We understand that this kind of violence shares the deep roots of anti-Black racism and xenophobia in the United States. The same violent dehumanization that has allowed white men to kill Black and brown bodies is at work in this tragedy in Atlanta. The single act of hatred follows the long history of white supremacy, militarism, and imperialism in the sexualized violence against Asian people. The dehumanization and disregard of Asian Americans and immigrants that is endemic to our country has only worsened during the pandemic. We demand that those who committed and condone such atrocities be held accountable, and that we name the misogynistic xenophobia that lies beneath the violence. Speak out against the racist systems that allow gendered violence against women and LGBTQIA people of color. Support survivors and local organizations like ours that intervene in instances of gendered violence. We should always be following the lead of local organizations as they respond to these events. Join us in supporting Asian Americans Advancing Justice Atlanta, Hmong American Women's Association, and mutual aid efforts that are supporting victims. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Zhong and Kajua to talk about our lens here at Freedom Inc.
Hi everyone. Kajua, I'm not sure if your internet is stable at this point. Hopefully it is enough, and you can help add on to what I'm going to be sharing. Um, so thank you everyone for joining us tonight. Thank you, Hope, for reading out our statement. And for folks, just letting you all know that our statement will be published on both our Facebook and Instagram at 7:30, so you can take a look at that and please share it out. Um, so with our statement, we and following our statement, we wanted to share some pieces and parts that we may not have been able to fully covered in our one-page statement. That yes, Freedom Inc. is an abolitionist organization, and with being an abolitionist organization, we know clearly that the state does not support nor protect nor serve us at all, and that police officers and anybody who um, is in law enforcement actually does not protect our interests and continues to support the interests of white supremacy. It was built to protect the white supremacy and those who benefit from it, aka white men, right? White people. And that again is why we as Asian folks at Freedom Inc. and Freedom Inc. in general is not asking um, for the state to support and finding justice for the Asian women and the other folks who have been impacted by this incident. Um, the state continues to harm and be a part of the problem and is actually at fault in allowing this to continue to happen, right? That this is not just one individual sad incident, that this harm continues to happen in Black and Brown communities. And Gajwa, would you like to add?
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is a really serious conversation because as an abolitionist organization, people will ask and often ask, like, what do you do with people who cause such harm? And I think that just like people ask us, what does community accountability look like to us in this when harm is done to us by the people who look like us? And I think that there is something to be said about how the police state treat white perpetrators and with soft hands and gentle hands and what kind of accountability is he going to have? And already people are starting to talk about his mental wellness and his sex addiction as if these are so we already know that a state that cannot protect us from white supremacists who went to 3 different spots to shoot and kill people who look like us cannot protect us afterwards, did not protect us during the violent act. And so we're not looking towards the police to create a protection or make us feel safe in this world. And so as Asian women who are survivors and victims of gender-based violence, we know that to be true. The other piece that I want to add in here is that this particular violence is horrific in two ways: that it is a racially motivated violent act towards Asian people, and that it is a gender-based violent act towards people who are women. And so I think that what happens with racist gender-based violent act is that it is an act of terror to silence and harm people who look like us. And then on top of that, not only people who look like us, but people who are female gendered. And so I think that this is quite traumatizing because in the history of Asian American women throughout the world, white supremacists and white men have caused a lot of harms in our communities. And we can, if you travel anywhere in Southeast Asia, you can see this blatantly. People do it without shame and without accountability. And so I just wanted to put that out there. We are not safer because the police did not protect the women during the act of violence, nor will they protect the women after this. And so I think that my staffs are really talking about alternatives like the mutual aid stuff. We've been trying to come up with accountability processes. We are also looking at ways that we can protect ourselves. And so I hope that people look at that and it's easy to see and to think that the police state was set up to protect you and to keep you safe. But those of us who've not been kept safe and have not utilized and do not wait on the police state to protect us, we do not look at them as a solution in this case either. That's all I have to say for now.
And I do want to add one quick thing around that, Gajo, that you reminded me, because I think a lot of times when we're talking about these cases, these incidents, right, and specifically this one, I think that folks have to like really reiterating what you said, like have to understand that actually this is not just an anti-Asian hate crime that's simply just an anti-Asian hate crime, that it was very gendered and racialized, right? And that again, if we're really looking at the state to supposedly protect us, we cannot. We know that the second highest complaint against police officers is, right, sexual assault and gendered violence. So how can we continue to rely on systems that were never created to protect us, that was really created to, again, uphold white supremacy, and that if we're talking about those who are most impacted by white supremacy, it is Black and brown folks. And that if we do not look the part, we will suffer. And that is exactly what we are seeing and continue to see.
The other quick thing is that I just read or saw something that the sheriff was saying that this is just a man who was having a bad day. Killing 8 people is not having a fucking bad day. And this is the type of non-protection that you're going to get. This is the type of accountability that we get. Like, as if having a bad day is an excuse to kill 8 women, number one. And number two, the sheriff should be held accountable. Where do you get to kill 8 people and just have a bad day? And on top of that, already the rhetoric of he's having a bad day, he has an addiction. Many people who have addictions and have bad days don't go out and kill 8 people. On top of that, so it's people who are condoning it, just like the sheriff, people who've condoned it and in fact have created this increase in violence against us, such as 45. Like, these are people who need to be held accountable. So not only is he a perpetrator, the perpetrator should be held accountable, but the sheriff, who is refusing to even say that this is blatantly racialized and an act of terror on our community, already giving excuses as if this man was just having a bad day. People who have bad days don't go out and murder 8 people and go to 3 different sites where they know that Asian women are at to murder them. And so if he refuses to protect these places or protect people who look like us, we refuse to uphold and pay his wages. And so this is why it's so important that Asian people look at defunding the police. You see how they treat this, already are making excuses as for this grown man for killing us. And so, yeah, I'm pissed. Anyway, yeah, that's all I have to say.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for that, Gajo. Because again, I think we cannot talk about what happened in Atlanta without talking about the gendered violence pieces. We also cannot have folks in power, right, come sweeping in and say they condemn this, and yet we just saw in this same exact week 33 Vietnamese people deported. That is also anti-Asian hate, right? So we really have to look at this and see everything that's been happening and naming all of these pieces and really seeing that actually the state is operating in the way that it's always been operating, right? To continue to put women in their places, right? To continue to put Asian folks in their places, to continue to harm Black bodies. So again, this is exactly why it is important for us to really move forward with an abolitionist lens and really be looking at what does transformative justice look like for us in our communities, right? To move our folks forward, to really seeking and shifting power so that we can protect our own selves, right? Because we know that these existing systems do not protect us and actually cause us more harm. So with that, I'll actually like it to pass it to Pashua to really talk about what are some of these things that we are putting in place to hold each other.
Hi, my name is Pashua. I work at Freedom Inc. as a gender justice advocate. In our service, we have support the victim and survivor of domestic violence, intimacy partner violence, and sexual assault. Also, we support Black and brown Hmong women, women and Khmer women and girls and LGBTQ people. In our service, we help people finding houses assistance, apply for federal and state funds, and a lot more. We also have programming in our in the FI, such as Black Girls Matter, Go Hmong, Khmer Teen Group, and Vijao Dance Group, Anchor Dance Group, Lacto, which about Khmer girls, youth, and Freedom Youth Squad, Freedom Youth Organized Camp, and books and breakfasts in the summer. Other than that, we also have the adult programs. There are 50 plus and fabulous wisdom project, Khmer Women's Healing Circle, Hmong Women's Group, and 1.5 generation group. Plus, we also have the community programming such as food pantry, and if anyone locally want to support, we will drop out a link here, so anyone who want to support can click on the link and learn more about what we have in our program. I'm gonna lead it to Nancy.
Thank you, Pashua. Really appreciate you talking to the audience about our services in-house. But we also want people to understand that there are a lot of people on the ground in Atlanta who have been doing this work for a really long time and who are doing the hard labor right now. We really want to highlight some resources. So in addition to using that link that is being dropped to stay connected with us, you should follow Asian Americans Advancing Justice in Atlanta. Follow them on Facebook, see what they're saying and what they're doing. On their Facebook page, they also have a donation page that was created to help the victims and their families who are impacted by the violent acts that took place last night. And that link will also be dropped in the chat. In addition to that, along the screen there, you see our Hmong Family Strengthening Helpline. Anyone in the country can call that helpline and talk to a live person. If you just need a process, if you yourself are going through something, please reach out to us. In closing, you know, us at Freedom Inc. has spent pretty much all day on Zoom processing and working this out with our community, and we will be updating events and activities that we're going to be doing in language in Khmer and Hmong, and doing that with our group. So if you're interested, please make sure you follow that link. We know that it's been a really heavy day, and we really want you to reach out to your Asian sisters in your families and in your circles. Please give yourself time to grieve the sisters that we lost last night. It is a moment that is really emotional and has been really hard for me. So I know that I will be looking for some comfort with my children tonight. But again, please continue to follow Freedom Inc. on Facebook to make sure that you are in contact with all of our upcoming activities.